Merhaba, selamlar. Hi. Hi everyone, how are you? Herkesin Dünya Kadınlar Günü'nü kutluyorum. Ve bundan biz 10 kere falan yapacak olsak ya arkadaşlar. 10 kere girip yeniden bunu ilk defa yaşıyormuşuz gibi. Olsak nasıl olur? Şu anda bekliyorum. Alanna kendi sayfasından katıldı. Alanna'yı kendi sayfasından alıyorum arkadaşlar. Alanna, I'm taking you from your own page then. So, here we go.
İyi akşamlar Belçim.
İyi akşamlar Alanna. It is so good to see you. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm sorry for the delay.
That's all okay. This is the Instagram live, the new way of living, and we are
Exactly.
getting used to this, so that's all okay. I want to celebrate your Women's Day. I couldn't imagine ever a better celebration for this day, actually. I'm so glad to be with you.
Me too, Belçim. Happy International Women's Day to you and everybody who's listening to us. It's so nice to be with you.
Actually, before we start, I would like to little bit of introduce you to everyone that are watching us. Alanna is the Regional Director of the United Nations Fund for Population Activities, which is UNFPA, for Eastern Europe and Central Asia. On the other hand, she's doing a lot of things for the health and for the human rights of women and girls in the world, wherever she had been. And you had been in all around the world, like Middle East, and you born and raised up from Canada, and you tell us in Mexico, you had been in everywhere basically since 1992. It's such a great warrior job that you did for all of us.
Thank you, Belçim.
I would like to start with to ask you, what does it feels for you, what it means for you, the International Women's Day?
Well, I mean, for me, it's such an important day for us, you know, for those of us who are really promoting gender equality all over the world and the rights of women and girls. It's a day where we celebrate all the achievements that we've made, to all of the women who precede us and who fought for us so that you and I can be sitting here having this conversation. So for me, it's really a celebration, but of course, it's also a time to reflect and look at what still needs to be done. And sadly, there's a lot that still needs to be done, including here in Turkey. And today is about women's leadership. So if we go back to that topic and think about women's leadership here in Turkey, we have amazing women's leaders, but we also know that only 20% of parliamentarians are women, that only 2% of mayors are women. So there's still quite a bit that we need to do. And I know that a lot of the women listening to us tonight and the men who support women's leadership, you know, they really need to take charge and not fear being a women's leader.
I think it feels like when you are speaking about that, even the speaking about leadership by itself, it feels like we upgrade from Cinderella myth to a brave. And this is like such a change for all of us when the time is changing, and we are in a point of zero, which is very exciting at the same time, which is very unpredictable at the same time. So we definitely need to work all together for doing a better things. And I know that UNFPA was part of a gender equality program. And can you tell us about more about that program?
Sure.
And what was the aim? Who are your partners, ideal partners for that?
Yeah, so UNFPA works in over 150 countries all over the world. And our principal mission is really to deliver a world where every pregnancy is wanted, every childbirth is safe, and every young woman and girl's potential is fulfilled. And that means potential for leadership as well. We really focus on issues that are of fundamental importance to women, whether it's zero gender-based violence, zero domestic violence, access to family planning, zero harmful practices like child marriage or son preference, female genital mutilation, which still exists in many countries around the world. So UNFPA, one of our principal areas of mandate is really to promote gender equality. And here in Turkey, we have a wonderful office working with government and non-governmental partners, with private sector, with champions like you, really to promote gender equality, to prevent gender-based violence, working on issues around child marriage, also a lot of work with refugees, which of course Turkey has so graciously welcomed to the country. So we do a lot of work on promoting what we call sexual and reproductive health, which is a lot about making sure that women deliver safely when they're giving birth, you know, preventing HIV, all of these things. We're working very much with lots of different people in Turkey, with the government and civil society and the private sector.
A lot of subjects to deal with. It sounds so. But may I ask you where are we in those programs? Which stage you are?
In Turkey or all over?
In all over.
I mean, I think that, you know, in the past 25 years or so, we've seen phenomenal progress. We've seen globally that maternal mortality rates, the number of women dying in childbirth, has reduced by 50%. So we've seen amazing results. But sadly, we still see so much that isn't right yet in the world when it comes to women and girls. We see so many women who get married before the age of 18. We see so many cases of gender-based violence. We know that 1 in 3 women are often survivors of gender-based violence. That's including in this country. And so we still have a lot of work to do, Belçim.
A lot of work to do. But I feel like we are, of course, with the help of everyone who built up a amazing history for all of us, for all those women who did a lot for us. But we are now in a place where we are more hopeful, because now I feel we all are awakening. Maybe with the small gift of the pandemic, as it made us all suffering a lot, it made us also to realize a lot of things as well. So hopefully we will start to deal with them together as well.
I think you're right.
My other question is, what other women's empowerment initiative does the UNFPA sponsor in one form or another?
Well, I guess I mentioned it already, but the work that we do with refugees, and in emergency situations, I think a lot of times that we forget that in an emergency situation, one automatically thinks about the need for shelter, for water, for food. But women continue to give birth to babies in an emergency. So that's the kind of work that UNFPA does in many different emergency situations, whether it's natural catastrophes or whether it's you know, political conflict, situations of political conflict. UNFPA is there providing that emergency support so that women can deliver babies safely, so that they can continue to use family planning if they've been using it. And that's another area that we work in, which I think is very important.
It is very important, especially for the refugees. That for us, it's a problematic when we are mostly seeing on the red lights those people that are interacting with us, but they are our kids, they are our people. We are all together in this, and we just don't know in 5 years of time, as they are growing up with so much hatred, with so much need, what they are transforming into. And that's why thank you so much for doing some things for trying to sustain their health and living conditions. Of course, the pandemic pandemic. How did it affect women generally, and on both an absolute and relative basis? I mean, it has a big impact, right?
It has had a terrible impact on women. It's had a terrible impact on everybody. But definitely, I think there is a differential impact. It impacts women and men differently. In the case of women, I think it's really exacerbated already existing gender inequalities. So we know, for example, that levels of violence against women has gone up. We've seen that in many of the countries. In UNFPA, one of the things we do is work with women's shelters. So we found innovative ways of making sure that women can still access those shelters when they need to. We've also seen that a lot of women are the frontline workers you know, whether doctors, nurses, midwives. And so because of that, women are exposed during their work. I think in general, though, on a positive note, women have really demonstrated tremendous leadership during the COVID-19 pandemic. And that is something to celebrate today as we celebrate women's leadership. It's been a very challenging road, but we've seen some really fine examples of women's leadership during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Actually, thank God to them. They gave us a lot of hope. In New Zealand, in Germany, like they were encouraging us, and they were telling us in Taiwan, in Norway, Finland, like the women leaders are taking off and rising and giving hope that we need to feel as they care of us, they love us, rather than trying to behave in the way of conditioned thinking and to create, to regenerate. So yes, thanks to all those leaders, they inspire us while we are in the worst place, especially in my country. Unfortunately, a lot of femicides happen during all this pandemic. Like it became like the people that didn't know each other, and they start to live in the same zone, and the domestic violence came in a very severe numbers. And just for the month of February, which is just 28 days, there was 28 female murders just during that time, and 12 suspected that we don't know what is the reason. But what I meant is this hatred, this thing is so scary. How are we going to heal that part? How are we going to, psychologically, we need to change a mentality. But sometimes it makes me feel so hopeful how we can just shift this patriarchic reactions, the reflexes of the people, the men world.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole world, Belgium. It's really the need to change social norms that allow for that violence to take place, that allow for gender inequality to exist. And it needs to start from the very beginning. It needs to start mothers, fathers, teaching those values to our children, right? And you have a son, I have 4 kids, and I think that we need to teach our children these values from the very beginning. And also, that's a lot of what we do in UNFPA, is working on changing social norms to try to promote respect for all human beings, in fact, rights for all. And it's just such a fundamental thing.
It is so even unnecessary that we are talking about this, actually. And actually, where we are at this point, we need to really deal with climate change more than anything right now. We need to just be one and do and use our all sources to be able to create a better future. We are just beating each other nonstop.
But you know, Turkey has some amazing examples of programs. There's something called the Business Against Domestic Violence, which our UNFPA office is supporting, which is fantastic. It's private sector businesses who are implementing programs within their own business to prevent gender-based violence, to offer services. So these kinds of programs we've actually used as a model in other places in the region. So I think, you know, Turkey has, of course, a lot of challenges, but it also has a lot of solutions. And I'm sure that a lot of the people listening to us right now are part of that solution.
I think so. We are the solution if we choose to be the solution.
Yes, for sure.
How is and can feminism grow and strengthen and make use of the digital era and the tools?
Well, I mean, this is a great example. And for me, I have to say it's the first time I'm using this particular platform. You know, I come from a different generation than you, Belgium. but
thank you for doing this with us.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I think that this kind of possibility that we can chat together about these important issues and really have a platform where people can talk is so important. I think that I really think that there's other, you know, apps, for example. We know that there are female health apps that offer women and everybody, in fact, access to the information that perhaps they're not getting in schools or they're not getting from their parents. So I think, you know, the digital age comes with a lot of opportunities for the promotion of gender equality, for learning about sexuality. However, of course, there's always risks. We know that cyberbullying exists. We know that there's a lot of disinformation. So, of course, we have to be very careful. But I think overall, it provides just a lot of opportunities for us, Belgium, to continue fighting the cause.
That is like, as you said, I'm a mother of a boy, which is upstairs, I hope, hearing us right now. And they will be growing up in a world of the digital age, and I can see through them that they are meeting, maybe they are not meeting socially as we knew before, but they are meeting on the platforms, and they are spending some time for hours hours together, and they are satisfying by it. Maybe it is just the time of breaking all the grounds, and everything that had been is going to be old, which we will take whatever is good for us to use, but then we will just find the challenge to create with the digital power. Because what Greta did actually was the power of a digital era also.
That's
with
right.
Digital, million of students, they woke everybody up. So yeah, it is affecting definitely in that sense.
Belgium, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely. Okay.
No, because you've asked me a lot of questions, so maybe I can ask you one as well.
I found you, Yanni. I have to ask you questions. I cannot find you all the time.
But you're such an inspiring leader for me that I want to ask you questions as well. So I'm interested to know, someone like you, can you hear me?
Yes, it's just gone.
Someone like you, for so many people in Turkey and beyond, and you're using your talent and your creativity and your art for the world, for a better cause. And what motivated you to do that? What made you the person that you are, and being an inspirational leader to many people?
Thank you very much, first of all, to naming me like that, inspirational leader. Because I don't feel like I do anything, actually. I feel I'm just being whatever is coming inside me, inside my roots. But I believe that, first of all, I always felt lucky to find my channel, which is art, to transmit anything, any message that I believe is true. Hopefully, if the projects are giving me that space. And that make me feel that, okay, if I am lucky, and beside I feel also lucky that I grown up with love, a lot of love. I was the first child of the two sides, my mother's side and my father's side. So without any conflicts, they just give a lot of love to me. And I always felt that was my superpower and gift, that I have things to give. If that is not only love, if that is my story, there is a meaning inside that. So after a while, and especially if you are a woman in this country, if you're born as a girl, then the moment when you start to grow up, the moment when your breast develop, which is amazing, you are healthy, breast develop, how lovely it is. But then the very confident time of yourself while you are walking on the street, and your father age approximately is coming nearby you and saying something that you cannot sleep for days and days, and it is so heavy to held, and it takes sometimes 1 week to get over it, and then another one, and then you are starting to feeling awkward to your own body, and it's starting that, okay, if I'm walking, I just gotta make the books here, and I just deny my own self. So 1, that 2, that 3 of this kind of things, then you are saying, okay, that is where they are saying, okay, you gotta be careful while you are laughing, because if you laugh a lot, you will take a lot of attention. You should be careful about what you are wearing, because you are seducing people. You should be care about what you are saying and how you are saying. You know, so many stigmas and taboos since we grown up in a society. And for me, in my story, in my 30, I was lucky to ask some questions to my own self differently. And the answers made me think in a different way, that I have to do something. It's not only, it's for me, And it's for everyone that I can reach, that I can connect with. Because if they don't have a choice, we gotta create the choice. This is our responsibility of women, being artists, because we all know that if there's a peaceful situation in the world, we cannot be in peace. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah,
we're just connected in that sense. So that is my story. I think our stories are like persistence is creating resistance.
Yeah.
So our stories are our gift to drive us into do whatever we want to do in life. So this was mine. I hope I'm doing anything.
I think it's amazing. Yeah. And I think, Belgium, that you don't feel that you are a leader, or you never thought of yourself that way, but that's probably what makes it even more special, that it's really coming from the heart, and what you do to bring people together around really important issues is really important. You mentioned a couple of things which I think are great. One is choice, because without choice, women can't achieve anything. If we don't have choice, the decision to decide when, if we want to have children, for example, where, who we want to be involved with as a partner. If we don't have those choices, we really cannot be the women leaders that we want to be. And that's what today is all about, right? So I think the fact that you mentioned that word is really important. And I love the idea that that love is a superpower. Or is that what you said? I think that's what you said.
Yeah.
It was very nice. Yeah.
I think love is really, I know it sounds romantic, but love is really the things that are going to save us, because it is the dimension that doesn't have anything to amplify. Like, there's no duality there. If you love someone, you love someone. And if you want to be a leader, you got to love someone. You got to love your work. You
need to love what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
And I would like to ask you,
okay.
And as you mentioned about the women leaders around the globe that had been really had amazing performances to deal with the COVID crisis. What do you think about how can we harness that power to make lasting change in gender equality?
Well, I think that the kinds of leadership we've seen during the COVID pandemic by women, and not just women, because I think it's not so much about women leaders, although there have been some really great women leaders, but it's also about the countries that will elect a woman leader, because there's something about those countries also that means that they're ready to manage situations in a different way, the complexity of situations. So I think, we have a lot of positive lessons learned in terms of going forward. And one of my friends and the former president of the General Assembly of the United Nations, Maria Fernanda Espinosa, who may be with us, I'm not sure if she is or not, but she just wrote an article on building back equal, which I think is very important. We talk about building back better, but she's talking about building back equal. And I think we have a lot of great experiences that can lead us the way to doing that.
It is going to, so it is starting then to move in that way. We need the numbers to grow with the confidence of making their voice more louder as women. Then hopefully it will be more hopeful. Yeah. Then as a leader your own self, what does the leadership mean to you?
I always find that a hard question, because like you, I never imagined myself as a leader. I never considered myself a leader. I just loved my job, and I ended up where I am today, and I was passionate about an issue, and here I am. But I think what it is really for me is the ability to inspire people to go in a direction that you believe is fundamental for making change. So I think that's one aspect. It's really, my favorite analogy is the analogy of the conductor of the orchestra. So you're bringing the different pieces of music together to make something beautiful, right? Everybody produces on their own something beautiful, but together, when you bring it together, it becomes even more powerful. So it's like the conductor of the orchestra. And then I think the third thing for me in terms of what it is to be a leader, and probably the most important, is taking care of your people. And that, to me, perhaps that's why women are good leaders, because fundamentally, above all, I really want to make sure that everybody who works in the office, who works in our offices, who they are taking care of as well, are okay and doing okay. So, and certainly during this pandemic, that's been one of the top priorities as a leader, is to make sure that it's called the duty of care, right? Making sure that everybody's okay. So I guess that's what leadership is to me, Belchim. What about you? Can I ask you the same question?
I missed the part that you're a leader that is very much inclusive and transformative, as I witnessed while I was with you, coincidentally and happily for me enough, that you are giving a space to the people around you that can feel fully themselves and fully comfortable of being themselves. And that is so special, and that love in your heart that you share with the people, it makes a big change, because when they feel loved, they feel safe and just surround themselves to create. What, like you said to me, what about me? Like,
yeah, what about you? What is a leader to you?
What is a leader to
or
me?
What's your favorite quality, perhaps?
Absolutely. I would say the love,
one, right?
Unconditional.
Yeah.
You know, like being decisive, being intuition. Like we have, like as a woman, that intuitive thinking, and that is so much to think. Everybody feel included.
Trying to get it back. Are we back?
Is better now?
Okay. Yes.
We are.
Yes.
These are happening all the time. Like, you know, this is something that is habitude for the Instagram live chat. So
I think it's normal, natural.
So, like, I think for a leader, being passionate, being determined to what they believe, and to make feel everyone that is around to be included, to be free, to be able to represent themselves authentically.
Mm-hmm.
And these are like some of the very important qualities for a leader to have. And I'm so happy to see that I think being boss was a word of
the other question,
understanding of the era of heteropatriarchic.
Mm-hmm.
That we are more in a different way of thinking, different way of world. Then it is becoming leadership, which is nobody is bossing to nobody. Everybody is equal, and everybody is in a creative, same amount of creativity that they can bring on board, however they want.
Right.
So it is exciting, and actually the idea of leadership has changed, because can't we say to Greta Thunberg that she's not a leader? She's a leader. Can't we say Amanda Gorman that she come up and read her poetry in a way that we never saw before?
Yeah, that was amazing.
How beautiful, how tender it is. And think about Billie Eilish. She's so young and she's writing her own poems, and she's just shaking the world, breaking the ground, thinking out of the box. So, like, I think the leadership, as you said, like that, it's changing the meaning in a way that everybody became their own leader first, and then a leader for society. So this is hopeful, actually, in that sense. I would like to ask you what you think that the men can learn from the women as a leader, like as a leadership qualities.
I think we need to ask Ben. But I think that in general, I guess maybe what I just said, I think the issue of really caring for your people is perhaps a quality that women leaders tend to display more than men. I don't know. Perhaps that's not true, because from my experience, honestly, it's not so much whether leaders are men or women, it's what leadership qualities people display. So I've seen a lot of very authoritarian leaders that are women and men. And I've seen very sort of empowering, inspirational leaders that are women and men. So, I mean, I think it's more about leadership qualities, honestly. But certainly for me, having women leaders beside me is something very empowering for me and enabling. I have to say that in my own life, in places where I have been surrounded by other women leaders, or that at least we were 50%, I felt different. You know, I felt enabled. Whereas when I started, as you said, almost 28 years ago, working for the UN, I started in a country called Mauritania, a beautiful country. But I was the only female professional in an office of 60 men. And I was 28 years old. Can you imagine? I mean, yeah.
No.
So, you know, it's tough because you feel a bit small somehow. And then, you know, I've had other experiences along the way. I've also had some amazingly empowering male leaders and female leaders, bosses who are wonderful, but definitely I've had some interesting experiences along the way.
I mean, like, that was a very tough start, I have to say.
Yeah.
And according to what you just say about, I think it's also time for us to accept our in feminine side, because as the biology admit that we all have the hormones that is directing us to behave certain ways, and it is maybe time to honor our masculine, our feminine side, as beside the gender, in that sense, because what you are saying is not about the gender, it's about the being, about what as a leader or as a human being. And as actually you just answered about that, but my question was about you are inspiring, inclusive, transformative leader, and what kind of challenges you got through on your career path.
Yeah. So that was one, Belgium. I think that the issue of being sort of a lone female in a sea of men when you're younger that was a little bit hard. Now the United Nations has made wonderful progress in terms of gender parity, and the UN Secretary General has a gender parity agenda and is working really hard to make sure that happens, and it is. But another time when I was working in Rwanda shortly after the genocide, I was the only female leader in a group of male leaders, and I was the youngest, of course, and they asked me to take notes, and I did, because I was young, and at that age, you know, this was 25 years ago. So today I would tell all the young women listening to us, you don't have to do that. And of course, you know, why would I be the one to take the notes? Anyway, but these are the kind of little things you face. I mean, these are seriously very minor challenges compared to what so many women go through. So I'm not saying that these are huge challenges by any means. They're just some of the things that one confronts. I guess for me,
because you had been always in the spaces that they value it as being equal. So you into that kind of emotions. So of course we can imagine outside it is much worse.
Yeah.
But the thing is, struggle is struggle in everywhere.
Yeah.
We are in fight.
But the good thing is we're looking at progress, and that wouldn't happen today. So that's a good thing. Things have really changed, including within the United Nations. We've made huge progress in terms of gender parity, gender equality, and ethical behavior. So I don't think that kind of thing would happen today. But you know,
because of you, the people who had been through in a tough position that the men ask them to take a note, and then they become a leader in a position where they can change, they can pay off what they had been through. So yeah, lucky in that sense also, so that now the leadership positions are changing, mentality.
Yeah, very true. And I think the other, just the one last challenge, Belgium, that I think many women face is the whole issue of balancing the family and the professional side, right? Growing
Yeah.
up with the kids, wanting to be a good mother and also be a good professional, that's always a struggle. I think it's also a struggle for many men these days, which is nice to see, because there's many men who are taking care of their children. Within UNFPA, we have several who are principal caretakers of their kids. So it's really a challenge for everyone to balance their professional and personal lives. But women generally do face that double burden more than most. So that's another area that UNFPA is really trying to look at, you know, how we can promote family-friendly, gender-responsive, family-friendly policies in the workplace to help promote flexibility, to make sure that men take paternity leave as well as women taking maternity leave, all of that, and, you know, changing the social norms around fatherhood so that fathers are engaged in their children's, you know, growing up. So
actually,
those are good things.
For making our planet more happier place, we gotta grown our babies all together, men and women.
That's
and that's maybe for that also going to make some impact. And what skills do you think that will be needed for the future leaders? What advice would you like to give to the leaders of future?
Ooh, yeah. I mean, the world today is a really tough one. I mean, not only COVID-19, but the polemic debates that we see, the polarization, people have such different views on one side or another. So I think to be a leader in today's world, you really need to have what's called emotional intelligence. You know, you need to be able to empathize with people, to understand their perspective. Even if you don't agree with them necessarily, you need to understand where they're coming from. And I think, you know, so emotional intelligence to me is probably one of the very important qualities. And that includes also being self-aware, knowing what you yourself know and don't know, and being able to say, I don't know, you know, and control your mood, etc., all of those things. But I think, you know, for young people today, it's a very complex world. And I think that we need to promote more and more young people's participation as well. It's very exciting to see so many young leaders. I've met so many young people in Turkey, some of whom I hope are connected here. And they're just so inspiring. And, you know, I love to listen to young people and share their vision and their dreams. That's what we need. We need hope. We need hope, and we need vision for the future.
We need hope, vision, and act. And
yes,
and the young is bring that with, hopefully. So we need to get apologize from them because we couldn't maintain a better world for them, so they got to deal. And thank to the things, conditions at one hand, that it is ageless now. The leadership or making your voice out loud doesn't have an age here anymore,
which is amazing. Yeah,
is amazing. And I think the young generation knows more than any of us that obstacles of ours can be our biggest opportunities. As it was a saying in a Happy Feet in a movie, but such a strength, empowered sentences it is.
Yeah.
So hopefully they will affect us in that way.
Yeah. So Belgium, one more question for you, because we've been talking about, you know, lots of positive things, but also, you know, what are the struggles then that you face in trying to promote this vision that you have of a more equal world, you know, rights for women? What are some of the struggles that you face in trying to promote that agenda?
Actually, let's be honest, Like really being a woman, the resilience in my country, resilient in my country. And, as I gave examples before, but in my career, I would say, for example, I would share experience that I had. I was playing in a TV show, and after a while, I was playing. I accepted to play in that because she was representing independent women that's very good in her career and in love, pardon, married, but falling in love to someone else. Then it started to turn out the show that script is coming into my hand, and it is totally different, Alanna. I start to be a domestic woman, a domestic lady that quit her job, and the reason was, you're a married woman, you cannot cheat on your husband unless your husband not cheat on you. So, you know, like, and then in the same set, there was the RV that I was paying my rent, that I was working in the same amount as my partner, and my partner was having his own RV. Come on, wake up, guys. And unless, like, it is hurting you, you wouldn't say anything, as you just give a example before. At one point, I start to lose the respect to my own self. I think as a storyteller, as a dreamer of this country, we have a responsibility. We have to not to forget that, as if we are doing a national TV show, which means that 2 hours a week we are entering to a home, we have to hold the responsibility of creating a future perception, creating a future vision. And instead of creating and admitting and powering the stigmas and taboos and conditioned thinking, we want to break them, right? And the system is that much rooted, it's not easy to do that. And actually in that experience, I said, okay, first of all, I have ADHD and I cannot work a long TV show anyway. And I don't want to do this to myself. Even it will cost me to stop acting, which is like a breathing to me. I'm not going to do that because I'm not acting to act. I'm acting to say something. I'm acting to transmit a message, something, to make people feel something. So that was a big conflict for me, to make me ask a lot of questions of my own self. Again, it was over 30. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, like I wish it would be earlier. That's why I want to say to the young girls, to them, to not to stop, let them to stop anything, to be in their own way, in their own decisions and beliefs in that sense. And I mean, the challenge is every day, actually. If I go detail, there are millions, but this was one major challenge that also makes me to own the women issue in my country, from every aspect. Women and girls need to be empowered. Don't double standards. We are working at the same time, at the same hour, and probably I was taking so much less money also. So, like, wake up. Like, why? So there's a challenge, a lot of challenge.
Good for you, Belçim. Good for you. I mean, you know, our executive director always says, dare to be powerful. And you're showing what that is.
We need to like, because I think what we have the most precious in our hand is our own self, and
that's
the
right,
for our own self, and love for our own self, and we gotta sustain it for our own self, at least, whatever it costs. Rodin, are you okay? So what are the essential questions for you as a leader that you ask yourself that keep you grounded?
I think that one for me is easy. It's just really making sure that what you're doing is making a difference. So in the world that we live in today, where we receive hundreds of emails and WhatsApps and inundated with information, it's very hard to stay focused, and we need to try to stay focused. So for me, I often ask myself, if I have a number of conflicting priorities, which one is going to change somebody's life? And you focus on that one.
Oh my God, is
Yeah,
heavy.
because you know there are so many things that one can do that don't really have an impact, and we can't lose time. So that's I think probably the question I ask myself the most in terms of trying to stay grounded.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
And my last question, as our time is also about to be finished, which women have inspired you most in the last 5 years? That changed from when you were younger? And if yes,
it's
how?
such a hard question, Belçim, because so many women have inspired me, including you, including who I'm talking to tonight. And that keeps me going, that inspiration. But I think for me, I have to say my mom, of course. She's the one who inspired me to be who I am. I remember my mom who worked, she had her own business. She went back to school to finish school while we were, you know, young. And I just remember her running all the time, running back and forth in the hallway as she was trying to make sure that everything was perfect, and everything was always perfect. Her work was perfect. The house was, you know, so that's a lot of stress.
Yes.
So my mom has always, and she's extremely creative. She's an artist as well. So my mom is my first inspirational leader. And of course, those who came before, my grandmothers, my great grandmother, I had the gift to know my great grandmother, who was an amazing woman. And they were all very kind women. They cared for people. They did. I mean, my grandmother was a social worker and this was in the 1950s, I guess, or 40s, right? I mean, she had a degree in social work and she was a social worker. But, you know, I would say after that, Belçim, and of course, my daughters inspire me on a daily basis. And also, there's a lot of men who inspire me. And I think it's really important to acknowledge the role of men in women's leadership, because without my father, who, you know, has always believed in me and taught me so much about leadership, I wouldn't be who I am today. So, but then I think I want to go back to the job that I have, because that's where I get inspired the most. As you said, I've worked in Latin America. I worked in Latin America for 8 years. I worked in Africa and the Middle East. And along the way, I've met so many women leaders who were civil society advocates, who were fighting for the cause, who were not working for organizations where they made a lot of money. It was, these women were really fighting the fight. They were risking their lives, and they were risking their families were at risk, because by them doing the work they were doing, often their families were at risk. And those women, many of them have passed away. I can name a few, but those women for me are always in me, and they inspire me, because without women like that, we cannot keep going. Because it's those women that we're sitting on the backs of, and we're here today having this conversation because those women were willing to go against the social norms that you just spoke about. They were willing to break the taboos and the stigma, and fight for the rights that many of us take for granted today. So to me, I think if anything, I would salute on International Women's Day all of those women's human rights defenders. I'm thinking of Gladys Lanza, who was from Honduras, who has passed away since, but such a courageous leader, and many others.
We are sending our love to them, and we're so grateful for everything they did, and hopefully we can achieve some things that is going to follow the rest of the generation, to follow up and to create and to generate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Belçim. That was so nice.
It was so nice. That is not enough. There is a very long way to go, but we know more than ever that we are all together in this, and against everything, we gotta be hopeful. We gotta be courageous and just keep on dreaming.
Yes, for sure. Definitely. And let's keep talking.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right? And this is just a start, so we can continue. I wanted to be able to wish you greetings in Turkish. Happy Women's Day. But
Kutlu olsun.
I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do it, but I can promise the next time I'll be able to. I can say
that is like, you know, in as we're talking about the digital time, this is my way of
oh, that's so cute.
Happy International Women's Day.
Oh, thank you so much. So I'm gonna try. Ready?
Yes.
Dünya Kadınlar Günü kutlu olsun. Olsun. It's a bit. I promise next time will be better.
Thank you.
I've been very, very busy at work, but I'm hoping that I'll take Turkish lessons. You know, I'm doing a PhD, so I'm hoping once I finish that, lifelong learning, by the way, Belçim.
Yeah,
then I'm going to start Turkish.
That is inspiring me, and I never forget that. Actually, Alanna is doing PhD. Oh my God! Like, I got more learn if you're doing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Belçim. Thank you, and thank you to everybody who joined us. And everyone is a leader, as you said, Belçim. Everybody can make a difference. So on this International Women's Day, we celebrate you and everyone else. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Bye-bye.